In late 2025, a game switched off one of its own features to stop an exploit. One button in a menu flipped off. For weeks, the feature flickered on and off until that December it went dark and stayed dark for most of a year. All through 2025, the game had been steady, even growing at times. In the 3 weeks after the December shutdown, a sixth of its players were gone. Within months, more than a third. Trove is a voxel sandbox, free to play since 2015, the kind of game nobody has to pay to play. It made money anyway. There were two ways to buy its premium currency. Bought directly, $1 returned about 185 units. Bought inside a resellable pouch, that same dollar returned 150. Players were choosing to pay full price for less. Follow the dollar and the machine becomes clear. Money came in from players who paid. Premium currency flowed out to players who didn't, the ones who farmed for hundreds of hours and bought it off the market with time instead. The company kept the dollar at the top and took a cut of every trade below it. Paying players quietly funded the free ones, and the marketplace skimmed each conversion in between. The game was open about it. Its best deal, the Sweet 16 pack, told buyers on the store page that the credits inside were meant to be sold on the marketplace. Every economy like this has one natural enemy: anything that makes supply free. Troves arrived as a duplication exploit. Left alone, duplication does to a marketplace what a photocopier does to cash. Supply floods in, prices fall towards zero, and the economy collapses from the inside. From the outside, measuring the damage to a private company is close to impossible. However, Trove left one door open, through the leaderboard with around 110,000 players sitting on it. It counts the dead alongside the living. So the total gets thrown out and the count is rebuilt from movement instead. What remains is everyone who played that week. The result is brutal. Of the top 20,000 accounts, 4,788 gained even a single mastery point in the week. Across the bottom 3 tiers, about 1 in 5 players is active weekly. At the top, the pattern reverses. The active rate jumps to 58%, close to 3 times higher. A large, restless casual base sits on a tiny devoted core. That is Trove's entire retention structure. The Mastery leaderboard shows who left, and the XP leaderboard shows when. Through all of 2025, that line barely moves. Where it does move, it drifts slightly upward, the sign of a mature game that has found its audience and settled. The October closure and the weeks of flickering that follow leave almost no mark. Then December came, and month after month, the line kept dropping from around 19,000 players a week to just over 12. That is a 37% fall measured against the level the game had been holding just a month earlier. Trove's real books are private and will stay that way, so what follows is a reconstruction built from the store's published prices and from how players are known to spend. It starts with one question asked of every revenue stream: how much of it depended on the marketplace being open? Every purchase fed a player's own progression, which stays on the account with or without a market. But some of that spending existed only because items could be resold. The tradable pouch is the clearest case. With nowhere left to sell, a large portion of its value dissipates. The rest of each stream, the part that bought progression, survives the closure and fades only as players leave. The share varies sharply by product. The Sweet 16 pack is almost all marketplace. Its whole pitch was the tradable pouch inside. Patron sits nearly 40%, affected by players' unease about the future state of the game. Direct credits and newly released content packs lean on the other side, only about a fifth of each riding on the market, the rest buying progression that outlives it. Then measure the one thing the data shows directly: the playtime that never happened. Summed across all 209 days, integrated week by week against that projected line, the shortfall comes to about 3,400 player years of play that never took place. Turning that into money is where the uncertainty lives, because what a player could have spent is never a fixed number. How often does a mid-tier player buy a content pack? Somewhere between 15 and 28%, a figure that appears in no public dataset. What does a completionist spend on credits in a year? $100 to $300 in a purchase, several times over. Every assumption in a model is a guess with a floor and a ceiling. So the model does not settle on one value. It runs the closure 40,000 times. On each run, it draws every input fresh from its own range, the purchase rates, the prices, the size of each tier, and plays the 209 days forward against an audience shrinking week by week. Stacked together, the bills cluster tightly. The median comes out around $250,000, half the runs below it, half above, the middle 80% between 216 and 289,000. That is where every reasonable estimate lands. About 2/3 of it is the trade mechanism going cold on the first day, the pouch premium, the bundle spread, the thinner margin on every credit sold. The remaining third is the slower loss of players walking away, and they were mostly the free, casual majority who spent the least, the only reason that the figure is not larger. $250,000, the cost of switching off one button. None of this makes the decision wrong. The exploit was real, and duplication left running rampant would have destroyed the economy anyway, slower but just as completely. Closing the marketplace was the responsible call. The devs clearly did not want to make it. The weeks of flickering and the $5 paywall bolted on at the end were the work of a team fighting to keep that feature alive. It was also the most expensive call on the table because the feature that ran the economy was the same feature that had been paying for the game. 209 days after the marketplace was shut, the doors finally opened for players to trade once again. It seems like the devs have found a counter against the dupers and cheaters. Well, at least for now.